Hello and welcome back to another episode of Art Within Art. Today I am up here in the beautiful, cool mountains of the Caucasus Range, located along the border of Georgia and Russia. I'm up here because there's a fascinating plot of land that has been seemingly abandoned for some time. But this home has a dark history and a fascinating collection of portraits that we're going to take a look at. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why am I armed with a weapon? Well, there might be bears up here, so better safe than sorry. Anyway, we're gonna take a look inside and sort of look around. It's a nice property. It's a shame that it's no longer inhabited. But as you can see, things are in disarray. I'm not sure how long it's been. Oh, they got a new game station. Fun. But it seems to have been quite some time before or since this place was regularly lived in. But I'm sure it made for some fond memories for those who were here last. This home, you may not know, belonged to a very infamous character. I'm trying to see if I can find a picture of him. The home's original owner was none other than Vladimir Makarov, a ultra-nationalist terrorist who belonged to the country of Russia. This was technically his safe house. He would come here when things were looking rough, things were sour, and he had to lay low for a time. You know, like most criminals do when crap hits the fan. Just looking at the house itself, it's not bad. I think it is perfectly serviceable, though maybe a little dated by today's standards. But that's besides the point. The reason we're here is because this home is the resting place of an elusive set of portraits. And I'm talking, of course, about the portraits of U.S. President William Henry Harrison. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, who is William Henry Harrison? I've never heard of him, besides that one Simpsons joke. Well, that's not too surprising, as you may be interested to know he was the 9th president who served the shortest time in American history. He was inaugurated March 4th, 1841, and he passed away just 30 days later on April 4th, 1841. A little bit about William Henry Harrison to give some context as to why his portraits are here in Makarov's possession. He was a successful military leader for a portion of his life. He served as a major general during the War of 1812. And before his presidency, he got this portrait painted by American portrait artist Albert G. Holt from New Hampshire. Now, I'm going to show you something really fascinating. Remember this portrait because it is also right here. It is also right there. You keep with me so far? That makes for 3. Now, there's not only 3, but there are 5. 1 over there across the bar, and finally the 5th right above the staircase. So, why 5 paintings? It's actually a really interesting story. You see, the painter, Albert Hoyt, he was not only trying to elevate his own reputation as an artist and trying to get more recognition for his work, this portrait being the most notable figure he ever painted a portrait for, but he was also part of an art movement that was fairly relevant during the 19th century, known as repetitionism. Now, repetitionism is a deliberate attempt to prolong the relevancy of a subject. You keep saying things over and over, then that's going to sit in the mind of people more often because they just keep thinking about it if you won't shut up. Now, this was a typical practice in 19th century American aesthetics. I mean, another example just here, if I run back upstairs, we have a portrait of George Washington, which again is found right above the stairs. However, those two are the only ones I've been able to find here of our founding father president. So it's interesting why Makarov chose to gather the collection of these 5 paintings of William Henry Harrison. Now, back to the context of these paintings. They were made, again, because copies of artworks were not so easy to do. So artists would mass reproduce a certain painting if there was a need or a desire to really make that work of art ubiquitous and to have it spread far and wide. And I think that Albert Hoyt sought to extend the legacy of William Henry Harrison by making these 5 additional portraits identical to the original. And they're not just portraits, they're not just simple copies. These portraits have a more symbolic meaning behind them. I call them the quintet. The quintet of H's, if you will. We have this first one. This one represents hope. And I think it's really symbolic that it's put right next to the entrance of this safe house. Now, you're probably thinking, how does this represent hope? Well, just look at it. Look at the warm, determined look of his face, the gaze of his eyes, the casual yet determined pose of his stance. This is hope resembling the optimism of a new administration, out with the old, in with the new, if you will. With every new presidential candidate, there's always air of both optimism and pessimism, not quite knowing what they will bring in their leadership and how they will change the country for better or for worse. Now, if we go, I believe it was this one here. This one, the second H, hubris. Now, you're probably wondering, why did he die so quickly after being inaugurated? Well, I know what you're thinking, and I'm sorry to disappoint you. He was not assassinated. You see, his inauguration, again, it took place on a cold, wet day in March. Now, for some reason, unbeknownst to us, and still a mystery to historians worldwide, he chose not to wear a coat. And he proceeded to give the longest inauguration address in American history, clocked in at over 8,000 words long and 2 hours to deliver the address. Now, you might be thinking, what does this have to do with hubris? Well, think about it. This man had so much to say, and in hindsight, he did so little. And so perhaps William Henry Harrison was a little full of himself. And you can kind of see this in this portrait as he's got a little bit of a smirk on his face, a little bit of a cocky grin. And his eyes are looking at you, almost looking down on you, as if thinking, hey, you're kind of like my servant. Go get me a cup of coffee. Something like that. Now, in the next painting, I believe it's this one right over here. This is the third H. This time the H stands for humidity, which I think, again, is symbolically placed right next to these windows. We'll get into that here in a second. Now, humidity. 3 weeks after he entered office, and keep in mind that he was inaugurated on a wet, cold day. 3 weeks after, he got caught in the rainstorm, and when he returned to the White House, for some reason that we still don't know, he did not change out of his wet clothes. Now, this is all true, mind you. He continued to serve the United States of America in a damp suit. Now, he probably thought that this wouldn't matter much, but, well, that ignorance wound up costing his life because he fell ill. And eventually he died from sickness related to cold, the flu, whatever. I didn't research that far. But the point is, regarding humidity, his final days were damp. They were gloomy. He had no choice in the end but to shake the clammy hand of fate. His final days were filled with memories of victorious battles, but overshadowed by the resignation to nature, the final victor. Now, going up to these last two, the second H that we're going to cover, it's a mouthful, historiography. And that is repetition as a way of storytelling. Now look at this gaze of Harrison. This is our fourth time looking at it. Look how deep those eyes are. Look how heavy they are. It's hard to just look at this painting without making eye contact and locking into that gaze for a time. He may have presided for a short time over this country, but he has been immortalized through art. And now finally, we go to the final painting, which represents the halo effect. Now, the halo effect is a phenomenon given to sort of social norms and customs, where you assign a personality trait to someone based on something completely irrelevant. Like, say you meet somebody with a French accent and you immediately think they're a big jerk. That's sort of a halo effect because of a stereotype that doesn't quite paint a whole picture. Anyway, in the case of William Henry Harrison, the halo effect is the social result of repetition. Because we've seen so many of these portraits, we cannot help but assume that he was an important figure. He mattered. He is greatness born from ubiquity. It's the joke that makes us as the viewer the punchline. Sure, he was only president for 30 days, but he was still president. What have you done with your life, huh? That's the question he asks as he stares at us. So why here? Why would a Russian terrorist be in possession of this presidential quintet? I have a theory, and please let me know your own thoughts too. It seems that Makarov saw William Henry Harrison as the prime example of American fragility. Through consistent exposure to this art, Makarov reinforced the idea that his enemy was not the global superpower that everyone has been led to believe, but that they are just feeble old men who have the capacity to die in just 30 days' time. And this whole safe house, in a way, has become a shrine to Makarov's perception of America's ephemeral power. William Henry Harrison was the inspiration for Makarov, and this simple portrait symbolized Makarov's prey, the American people. Really makes you think. Well, that about does it for today's episode. There is one more painting I will be going over here at another time, since I'll be spending the night here all alone. It's kind of creepy. I mean, the birds are kind of nice, hearing them and whatnot, but, you know, it would be nice to, like, have someone to talk to. I don't get any cell service up here, and, well, the internet's down. I'll probably fix this couch and see if this game station still works. So, yeah, if anybody's up in the Caucasus Mountain area, come up. It would be cool to hang. Got a couple cars. Maybe I'll go see if I can find a Maverick. I gotta find the keys first. Anyway, thanks again for watching. Please like and subscribe and follow for some more videos down the road.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a wonderful evening of theater and picking up after yourselves. We begin with a tribute to our lesser-known presidents.
We are the mediocre presidents. You won't find our faces on dollars or on 130 days.
We are the adequate, forgettable, occasionally regrettable caretaker presidents of the U.